Good afternoon, everyone in Vietnam, and hello again. In this session, welcome to Parallel session number 1. And in this session, I'm prepared to have 9 presentations. So I guess you are already there, or it will be showing up on time for your presentation, I hope. Because of the number of presentations, we plan to give 10 minutes to each presentation, including presentation and questions and discussion. So each presenter will be presenting in maximum 7 minutes. I guess Dick has sent you an email yesterday to inform about the procedure. So 7 minutes for each presentation, and then followed by questions and discussion. We will start with the first presentation, and that is Cao Hồng Huệ with the paper on flipped learning, flipped classroom with Office 365. So are you there, Cao Hồng Huệ?
Vâng ạ, em ở đây dạ. Em chào thầy cô.
Okay, yes, welcome.
Yes.
Think, will you help me to keep the time?
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead when you're ready. Wait.
Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen clearly.
Yes. Thank you. Hello everyone. My full name is Cao Huệ. I'm working at Hanoi Pedagogical University number 2 in Vĩnh Phúc province. Today I would like to share you my research about flipping classrooms with Office 365 education. First of all, I would like to talk a little bit about flipped classroom. Flipped classroom is a model of blended learning instruction. This is an educational technique that consists of 2 parts: interactive group learning activities inside the classroom and direct computer-based individual instruction outside the classroom. According to and Sham, the flipped classroom has many advantages, such as allowing students to pause and rewind their teacher to fit with their speed, increasing student-teacher interaction, etc. In other words, the flipped classroom enhances student learning experience, customize and personalize students' learning. In addition, flipping classroom helps to develop students' critical thinking skill and other 21st century skills. As I have thus said, flipped classroom is an educational technique that consists of 2 parts: interactive group learning activity inside the classroom and direct computer-based individual instruction outside the classroom. So in this model, students watch video at home and in class. Instructor facilitates group work and other activities typically be considered as homework. And I implemented a research about possibility of flipping classroom with Office 365 education. Office 365 education, A1 is provided free with web apps like Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, Teams, Forms, Sway, etc. So Teachers and students can work together, communicate seamlessly, and create amazing content. Office 365 has 16 Office apps and service. Among these tools, three tools most frequently used by teachers are Teams, Forms, and Sway. Microsoft Teams is a digital hub for teachers and students. Educators can create collaborative classroom, personalized learning with assessments, connect with colleagues, and streamline faculty communication. Microsoft Forms is formative assessment and survey tool. Microsoft Sway is a mobile adaptive digital storytelling tools. With Sway, the teacher can combine a text, images, a video, and other embedded content to tell a story, so teacher can take advantage of Sway to easily create awesome online lessons.
Hi, you still have 1 minute left. So
yes.
Yeah, thank you.
To flip the classroom, I use a 3-step process. Before class, I use Sway and some other digital tools such as PowerPoint, Form, Palette, Flipgrid, Cursor, etc. For create online lesson. During the class, I am I will check the preparation of my student. If my student have good preparation, they must collaborate by using digital tools to solve a problem. Otherwise, I divide class into small groups. Each group has a teaching assistant who is a student who has successfully completed the assigned task before going to class. In case most of students don't prepare for their class before class, I will deploy the class in the traditional way. I have received the following research result. 18.5% student agree the effectiveness of using Office 365 in preparing the classroom, and 49% student interest in prep the classroom with classroom, and 30% pre-service teacher will using Office 365 to prep the classroom in the future. And they think the teacher should apply this model to teaching the following. And so I'm after the research, I think we should using Office 365 education in flipping the classroom. And with this model, students gain more knowledge, and we can improve students' self-study ability. But for user effective this model, the university or the school should deploy Office 365 for education for a fee, and deploy high speed and stable network connection. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for very relevant and timely presentation or research topic. So let us open up for discussions. Will you can you see if there's coming any questions, or if anybody wants to ask a question?
Hi, I didn't see any.
Oh, wait, can I
Have.
ask a question for you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, in your presentation, you are much focused on the flipped classroom, and I agree with you the effectiveness of the flipped classroom. But I'm wondering whether if you can tell me some of the features of Microsoft Office 365 over some of the other platform like Zoom's to enhance the effectiveness of the flipped classroom.
I think with Office 365 can has many applications that's very useful for teacher. So for example, such as our was Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Teams, Sway, and Forms. And now with Office 365, teacher and student can work together, communicate seamlessly, and create amazing content. I very love Microsoft Teams. With my Microsoft Teams integrate learning system management and meeting and online meeting tools in or one of apps that's in Microsoft Teams. So with my Microsoft Team, my teacher can implement effective online class. With and I really love the Sway, the Microsoft Sway. With Microsoft Sway, teacher can easily create online lesson. They can embed many type of resources into Sway, so student can easily learning.
So thanks
Okay.
for your answer, but I'm wondering the success of implementation of the flipped classroom depends a lot on the way the teachers conduct the classroom rather than the technology itself. Because I have used the two at the same time, but I didn't find much difference between the two technological tools. I'm just wondering about how the teachers conduct the flipped classroom in the class.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I have to interrupt you, but thank you for the question. And also, I also have the same concern with Thủy Chen that whether the tool itself promotes to critical learning and also promotes student-centered learning, that requires a discussion, which I'm afraid we don't have time for today, but we can leave it there for Hui to reflect upon. The next presentation, let's try Thủy Chen, positive shifts in the teacher and student perceptions of teaching and learning practice in Vietnamese higher education.
So hello everybody, my name is Thủy. I'm from Hanoi National University of Education. It's my honor to present one of my aspects in my project. Teaching and learning in higher education is not a new topic of concern. However, teaching in a university has been receiving increasing attention because in the last decades, higher education has changed substantially. So the massification, the internationalization in higher education, as well as the technological advances in communication have resulted in significant changes in the ways teaching and learning is conducted and the roles of the university teachers. So my topic is about the key components of teaching and learning universities that the student perceive to enhance their learning. First of all, I would like to say some key features of Vietnamese higher education context. As you can see from the map, historically, Vietnam, our country, was under the Chinese domination for more than 1,000 years. And when at that time Chinese policy for cultural assimilation was seriously applied. And after that, Vietnam was colonized by French and later on America for over a century. So in that historical and political context, Vietnam has been embedded with different values and heritage. So teaching and learning are influenced not only by Confucianism from Chinese culture, but also by Western features of education from France and America, and some socialist features from Soviet Union. And after đổi mới, the renovation in 1986, the country has transformed from one of the poorest nations to the world to a lower middle income country. So I have some statistics about the development of Vietnamese higher education regarding the expansion of the universities. As you can see, in the last decade, from 2008 until 2018, Vietnam has been successfully expanded its size. The number of higher education institutions have increased, and so have the number of teachers and students. So it means that the student and teacher ratio has decreased. However, the class size is still very large, and much evidence in the research literature still shows that teacher-centered approach is one of the most prominent teaching approach in general education in the universities in Vietnam. So Vietnam so far have implemented several important initiatives regarding to transform the teaching approaches for the teachers in the universities. So that's why I conducted my research. And the aims of the research is to find out the key components of teaching practice that promote the student learning. And my project consisted of 3 phases. So today, I just want to talk about the last phase. That's the interview with the teachers and the student, their perspective, to see, in their opinion, what kind of teaching practices can enhance their learning, can facilitate their learning. So I have interviewed 36 of them, 18 students and 18 teachers. And before saying about the findings, the key findings, I would like to have some words about the conceptual framework. The conceptual framework is the result of the rigorous literature review, the documentation analysis, and then the expert review. And then after the 2 phases, I have got the conceptual framework, and then based on the framework, I have developed the interview, the in-depth interview questions. And from the interview, there are some emerging topics for me to discuss. First of all, is the constructive alignment in teaching, learning, and assessment. So as we all know, in Vietnam, assessment is mainly, the learning of the student is mainly driven by assessment. So the student can learn and can do the task if it's related to their assessment. And constructive alignment is one of the Western notions regarding the alignment between teaching and learning and assessment. And from my interview, I also found evidence from the students saying that if the learning tasks, the teaching activities are aligned with the assessment, they feel very motivated in learning. So they are driven by assessment, but they are also they are also aware of the alignment between the 3 parts in teaching. So in Vietnam, in my institution more particular, we still influenced by the centralization of curriculum. So we have top-down approach to developing curriculum. So the teachers may not really flexible in conducting assessment because we have a fixed number like 30% for midterm tests and 60% for end of term tests. So it's very hard for the teachers to, to change that kind of formula. But as you can see from the from the centralized context, we still see that the constructive alignment of Western approach to teaching is still evident in that context. And another key finding from my interview is the hybrid approach to teaching. The student, on the one hand, they prefer the teachers to confirm their understanding if they have any questions. On the other hand, they still like their teachers to conduct activities that enhance their order thinking skills, like critical thinking, problem-solving skills. So in other words, they prefer the combination, the balanced combination between the teacher-centered approach and a more learner-centered approach. So that's the student perspective. And another topic from my interview is the peer learning. It seems at first, before the research, I thought that Vietnam is a kind of collective cultures. So the student really want to work in groups. But actually, they said that working in group depends. Sometimes they don't work, but relies on only one person. So they say that peer learning is good for them only when the management of the work is good. And they expected the teachers to have some kind of very clear criteria to assess the contribution of each individual into the group. So we have more information from the student perspective.
Okay, thank you, Thi. Yeah, thank you for a very insightful study. I think it's also a very nice research design you have. So questions from the audience, or any of colleagues here having questions to Thi about her study? Or any feedback from our senior colleagues, our experts in educational research, for her to improve the research?
Hello.
Yes, please.
I have a question. Of all the kind of method that you have provided it within your study, which one is the one with the least reliance on a curriculum? Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, of all the in the list of the major findings, the slides that on the.
So which one is the biggest finding, or?
Which method is least reliant on a curriculum, a fixed predefined curriculum?
So from my understanding, you want to ask me which is the major finding from my study, is that right?
For example, you mentioned peer learning, and it's only appropriate for certain type of projects or subjects. How about the need for a pre-existing curriculum to facilitate this kind of peer learning?
Okay, so basically, maybe I try to recap the question. So peer learning appears to be a challenge for Vietnamese or in your study, right, in this collectivist culture. So how do you think that this could be promoted or be implemented better in such a cultural context?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Lida, for helping me to clarify the question.
I'm sorry, maybe I misinterpreted the question, but let's take it now for now.
Because I myself didn't listen to the question very well. So yeah, thanks. So peer learning is supposed to be a very suitable approach for the collective cultures. But in Vietnam, from my interviews, I found out that the students, they have personal conflicts when they work in groups. So So that's why they said that peer learning is good for them to enhance their collaboration skill, their communication skill, their soft skill, other soft skill, but they prefer the teachers to have a kind of criteria, a very good criteria from the beginning to assess the individual contribution of their project, so that they the peer group, the group work doesn't mean the work of one individual, but rather than the equal contribution of each individual in the group. So that's the evidence you can find from my project.
Okay, yeah, okay. So thank you. It leaves some thoughts and reflections about how to motivate peer learning, right, in our cultural context. So thank you, Thi. Let us move on to Trần Thị Hòa. I guess that's the next on language and education in global context. Ngôn ngữ và giáo dục đào tạo trong bối cảnh toàn cầu hóa. Trần Thị Hòa.
Hello everyone, my name is Hoa Trần from Da Nang University. I would like to talk about my paper on multilingual education in the context of present-day globalizations. The full title of my paper is Languages and Education in the Context of Globalization, a case study of the bachelor program in journalism at University of Science and Education, the University of Da Nang. The purpose of this study is to gain an understanding of the relationship between languages and education in the context of present-day globalization, to propose changes in using languages as the instruction tool of teaching at university. This research is drawn on the eclectic theoretical frameworks of multilingualism, multilingual education, concepts of globalization theories, and communication theory. About research methodology, in conducting this research, I adopt an ethnographic approach using the case study of the journalism bachelor program at University of Science and Education, University of Da Nang. I use in-depth interviewing and observation as the data collection methods. For analyzing the data, I use thematic analysis to identify themes and patterns. The major findings of the research are: journalism students at my university are better at spoken Vietnamese and written Vietnamese. Students pay more attention to improving English than to excelling in Vietnamese. There has been efforts in developing bilingual program at my university, yet learning foreign language is still a challenge for many students. There has not been program or courses in the journalism program taught in ethnic minority languages at my university. Here are the discussion on the finding linked to the theory on globalization and multilingual education. Human resource movements in the present-day globalized world require increased multilingual education for the adaptation of workers in various working environments. Today, universities need to provide multilingual education programs, especially foreign language programs to students. Multilingual competence makes an important part in the comprehensive capacity of effective global workers, which enables them to increase the possibility to get access to and be accepted to the international labor market. This research brings up the following major point. From a globalization perspective, multilingual education can be seen as a partial result of the globalization process, which had given rise to the need to be human resources that can move around the globe and work in diverse environments. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic and other current problems, globalization will continue, at least in digital form, which means multilingual education is needed. This paper suggests that a multilingual approach should be applied into today's university education as a way to empower global workers and overcome the dark side of globalization. In conclusion, multilingual education is needed to improve the quality of the global working force, promoting development and reducing the divide caused by globalization. This can play an important role in creating an equal playground for nation and community in the context of present-day globalization. That's my presentation. Thank you for your attention. All right.
Yes, thank you for finishing on time or well on time, and the very well structured and even bilingual presentation. It is very clear, I guess. Questions from the audience? From colleagues? So, I find it very interesting, this multilingual perspective. I'm just wondering if there's any, or from theoretical, or from your theoretical knowledge, or from your observations in your study, if there is any association between being good at speaking Vietnamese, well, being good at your mother tongue, which is Vietnamese in this case, and being good at English. Is there any correlation?
You mean, is there any relationship between being good and Vietnamese and being
Yes. Yes.
You mean for my students?
Among your students, among the students you study.
As far as my research, I find that the student in my university, in the journalism student, they develop Vietnamese very well, but learning English is mostly just for a few of them is good, but for most of them it's still a big challenge, and they can be very fluent when they present something in Vietnamese language, but when we talk about using English, they become terrified, and they lose their confidence. So this is a problem, because they don't become future journalists, and they need this, but they haven't got that, most of them.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for the insight. I can see that Ting wants to raise a question, or Ting found a question. Go ahead, Ting.
Hi, I have a question that is really interesting in your research paper, because it's your context of research is my university also. So, so my question is, what the university or the policy, the curriculum maker do something to improve the capacity of learning foreign language for the student. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ting. Yes, the people in charge, the curriculum makers, have tried to help the students to improve their English. Most exactly, that's English. Before any other language, we need English. So there have been effort putting in trying to help the student to improve their English. For example, we try to design courses in English for journalists, for journalism students. At present, it is optional, but we hope that in the future it will become compulsory. We try very much to attract students to this course, but once again, this problem comes from the student themselves. So we got the course there, the teacher there, but the student, they don't have enough confidence to take the course. So that's the problem. Yeah, but the university have tried very much, and the student in the high quality programs, they have much more courses teaching in English than other normal students. So there has been effort, but I think we need more effort in the future regarding this. Yeah.
Okay, any question? Any more question? Câu hỏi từ các anh chị và đồng nghiệp và thầy cô giáo ạ. Có thể bằng tiếng Việt cũng được ạ.
So I see one more question from Phoebe Pham. So is there any research or suggestion on which language should be learned together to be better achieved?
So is it Do you mean that which language, which foreign languages or which language should be taught at university? Used as the instruction language? Or you mean the priority one? As in my paper, I suggest that for the case of Vietnam, we need to teach Vietnamese language. The Vietnamese national language is compulsory. And then English as a global language. But I also suggest that there should be more options, like students should take courses in Chinese, Korean, Japanese, maybe Russian, and even ethnic minority groups. This should be tailored in the need of students. We need to have a research and see what the student need and provide the program for them. So that if the student want to work maybe in Japan in the future, they should learn Japanese. If they want to work in Korea, then they should learn Korean. But if they are Bana ethnic people or Katu ethnic people, maybe journalism program in Bana language or Katu language is very useful for them in the future. Yeah, that's what I think.
I think this is a very important point to finish on the topic, because we also trying to promote indigenous and locally embedded education, right? So thank you, Hoa Chen, for presentation and insightful answers. So we need to move on to the next presentation. I think we'll go back to the earlier presenters at a later point. The next presentation is on experience in lacking professional identity. I guess I'm right. Yes. Khánh Phạm Duyên and Nguyễn Hà Thành. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Phạm Khánh Duyên, and actually I am a student in the University of Languages and International Study, Vietnam National University. And I recently conducted a research titled Experience in Lacking Professional Identity, a multiple case study of pre-service teachers in faculty ULIS, with the support of my supervisor, Dr. Nguyễn Thanh Hà. And today I'm very happy to be here to share my humble knowledge about my issues. Okay, so firstly, in the first part, I would like to quickly review some key terms, including teacher identity, its development process, as well as some characteristic of lacking teacher identity. Well, in terms of definition, many research have different ways to define what teacher identity is. For example, according to Lasky in 2005, it deals with a self-image as a teacher, or can be the performance seen by the others. Another researchers may define it as a perception of teacher's role, or according to Castanet in 2011, it could be the sense of belonging to teacher community. And for the development process, many researchers, especially Mueller in 2008, they emphasize that teacher identity is relational, negotiated, transforming, and transitional. So this means that it is not something fixed, but it is the process, and this process always changes. And it mostly developed through the teaching training course when they enrolled a university, and through their many teaching experience in the practicum. In contrast, lacking teacher identities, actually I didn't have many literature about this, but it could be recognized through the failure of identify as teachers, or the students can create an identity of non-participation and marginality, or besides some increased tension, negative feelings and emotion also contribute to this lack. And for the research goals, I would like to quickly talk about the context. Well, in Vietnam, you know that the admission to university, especially some popular university, it is very competitive. And on the other hand, the lack of there is a lack of formal, credible career orientation services in Vietnam. So consequently, there is a large number of students choosing the wrong majors. And according to a statistic in 2013, this number is up to 60%. And in my University of Languages and International Study, English language teacher education is a big major with 200 students per year. And in a 4-year program of study, they will have the first 2 years studying some general subjects like philosophy, some math-related subjects, and so on. And then in the last 2 years, they will focus on some teaching courses, like they will deal with some subjects like the methodology of English language teaching or lesson planning and so on. So based on this context, my research question is, how have the participants experienced the lack of teacher identity, and how have they coped with this lack? And in terms of methodology, I conducted 3 semi-structured in-depth interviews with a set of open-ended questions, and my participants comprised 2 third-year students and 1 recent graduate. Then the data were categorized into themes and topics, and then we draw out the findings. And now this is the result of the research. For the first question about the experience in lacking teacher identity, participants seriously lack the initial interest in teaching profession. There is a mismatch between their self-image and that of an ideal teacher. Like, for example, they didn't see that they themselves have some characteristic or personality of a good teacher, for example, being patient, being confident, or some soft skill like public speaking and so on. And then they're also aware of the challenges and in teachers' working conditions, like they didn't like the repetition when they a teacher often go to the working environment every day and then come home, and this is very boring. And however, they still choosing teaching as the major just because of their family encouragement and the failure to come up with better alternatives. For example, they know that they didn't enjoy joining in a university of economy. So besides the initial interest, they also liked the positive professional experience. In fact, the results, the findings shows that there are many negative experiences with coursework and teaching practices. They also have very few motivation, like they feel very bored when they have to learn some specialized subject at school, and then they didn't have, they are not motivated to join or to practice teaching outside the school, outside the university. And then they also like the sense of belonging to teacher community, like in own conversation, they never care about some teacher related issues, and they never talk about that. Besides, some difficulties and failures is also interpreted as some further evidence that they are not meant to be teachers. And now moving on the second question about the coping strategy. In fact, they have some strategy in terms of emotion, behaviors, and cognition to cope with the lack of teacher identity. Regarding emotion, they try to manage their negative emotion during both teaching focused courses and in the teaching practice. Like for example, when they are demo teaching, they try to be confident, just pretend to be confident, or in practice teaching, like they can, if they get angry with students, they will try to remind themselves that they are a teacher and they cannot be that, and try to keep calm. And then in terms of behaviors, they try to avoid every teaching related jobs or teaching issues, or they seek help from teacher community when they have any difficulty. And then they also try something new, like learning another language. For example, learning Korean or some French in university, or try some other job which is not teaching, like translation or interpretation or collaborative journalism. And by focusing on the favorite majors and getting support from teachers and family members, they just show the distraction from teaching profession. And in terms of cognition, they show that they reframe the purpose of learning, of teaching. It is just for the course completion. They just study for high GPA or just for teaching advantages. And we draw out some implication from this study that it is a very necessary to have career counseling before university enrollment. And it is also very important to manage the manage negative emotion, and also the important role of university teachers. And thank you. That is my study. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Xuyen, for a very interesting topic and also study. Yes, I already can see a lot of compliments in the chat box. So I guess I'll have some engagement from the audience, colleagues, to have any question.
Yeah, I'm open to answer the question.
Yes.
Even now.
Please go ahead. Just unmute yourself and speak freely. Các anh chị và các thầy cô có câu hỏi đặt cho em Duyên ạ.
May I ask Duyên a question?
Yes, please.
Hi, Duyên. It's an excellent study and very interesting study about teacher identity, very well informed. You use a different the framework. I would like you to explain a little bit for me about the last point in the implication, university teachers as a model and support. Why is only university lecturer? Thank you, Duyên. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that is a very interesting question because as I said that the university teachers as a model and support, I mean that when I study the participants, they show that they can seek support from many university teachers who said that they are not necessarily to be a teacher, even they are in the teaching English teaching education, and many university teachers give support to them when they say that you, even if they are in this major, you still use their language competence to do another job as long as you feel like you have the passion in their favorite major. It's okay. It's not necessary to be a teacher. So I mean that.
Yeah, that is a good point. Another question is that if they say that just study a language and you can do some other thing, do you think that it's so wasteful for them to study 4 years in a teacher education program and then after that they don't want to be a teacher?
Okay, so the finding is quite interesting when they say that they didn't want to be a teachers, but they still consider teacher is a very beneficial profession for them when they can get financial support, or when they are it is, I mean that somehow it is beneficial for them. So it is not like totally wasteful for them at all. So why they still doing, for example, when they still teaching as a part-time job, they still do their favorite majors, and that is excellent.
Yeah, thank you. It's excellent answer. Another comment is that maybe we need to rethink about how we employ, we need to rethink about how we recruit our free service teacher in our program. Not only about academic, but also non-cognitive attribute as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Duyên. That's an excellent presentation.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Duyên. I also think that this is a very promising study and always interesting about professional identity. And I just wanted you to reflect upon the problematization of the study because I was not so sure to get it, whether it is because there's a lack of teachers that led you to study the issue of teacher identity, or whether there's a lack of good teachers that led you to studying the idea, or whether it is because teacher-student have a tendency to drop out of the education or something like, or perform poorly, right? So just maybe just be a little more clearer about the purpose, not the purpose, but the problem background of the study would be.
Okay. Yes.
Would be
so
great.
Yeah. So for the problem of the problem background of this research is that from my observation, I can see that most of my friends and my other pre-service teachers, they shows that they didn't want to be a teacher. It is not because of they cannot be a good teacher. They just merely don't want to be teachers. And you know, from the, as I have said before, they just enroll these university teachers for the encouragement of the family, of the ideology, the idea of being a teacher, how good to be a teacher of the society. So they just decide to enroll this university, but totally lack this identity, or they have no idea of being a teacher. Yeah. So,
okay,
yeah.
thank you, Zian. I'm sorry I missed I didn't see the questions in the QA chat box, but I'm afraid we don't have time for Zian now. But Zian, could you check out the questions and perhaps to try to see if you can answer to these questions? Thank you, Zian.
Yeah,
Thank you
sure.
for
Thank you.
presentation.
Yeah,
Okay, let us move on to the next. Kiều Chinh on a framework for changes in Vietnamese higher education. Kiều Chinh.
Hello everyone.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can already hear you, but let me just locate. Yes. Okay, I can see
Okay,
you now.
perfect.
Yes, go ahead, Kiều Chinh. Yeah.
So hello everyone. So my name is Trung Kiều Trinh, and I am a former student at Sheffield Highland University, the United Kingdom, specializing in education. And during my study, I am keen on comparative education, and I conducted a research on comparing students' university experiences in two different contexts, Vietnam and Western countries. So today in this symposium, I would like to present a summary of my paper as follows. Firstly, I would like to start off with the widely agreed notion that Western academic ideas and traditions are becoming standard for mostly all of the parts of the world, and Vietnam is not an exception in this trend. This is reflected in several policy documents, which is repetitively states the necessity of approaching the world standard and selectively learning from the advanced system. And the practice at university shows the same trend, since Western point concepts such as student-centered teaching and learning approach, cooperative learning are being increasingly discussed on recent research in Vietnamese context. That being said, according to Trần Ngô Nguyễn and Đặng, 2017, the hybrid at universities in Vietnam appear to happen on an ad hoc basis and in an inconsistent manner. So this research paper aims to fill in this gap of this body of knowledge by systematically investigate what and how Vietnamese higher education system could learn from the developed countries. Through the perspectives of Vietnamese students in different contexts, the two questions below can be made more specific as follows. Firstly, speaking of what is the world standard and what can Vietnamese students aim to achieve, this research will look at the differences and similarities between the attainments of students from two different contexts. And secondly, regarding what can Vietnamese higher education can learn from the West, the paper will examine the major differences between the educational context described by students in Vietnam and Western countries. In this research, the data are collected from semi-structured interviews with 7 students having the same general education background and having graduated from universities in less than 2 years, so that they can still recall their experiences. 3 of them were studying in Vietnam, who make up group 1, and 4 of them finished their undergraduate program in Western countries such as the UK, the USA, and Australia, and they belong to group 2. After being collected, the data from each group will be analyzed thematically, and the themes developed in each group are compared and contrasted with those of the other, so as to come to a final comparison. So, in alignment with the two main research questions, the findings are presented as follows. Firstly, in terms of student attainment, it is evident that students from both groups agree that university does support them in developing personally, in becoming more mature, more independent, and having better social connection. However, while students in Western countries report their satisfaction in the academic side of their educational experience, in particular in their attainment of job-ready, sufficient, and in-depth knowledge, students in Vietnam show their dissatisfaction with inadequate, isolated, and surface expertise knowledge they achieved. Besides, there are sharp differences in the skills students from two groups acquire. On one side, Group 2 students reported their development of critical thinking and academic skills, such as research skills, reading skills, communication, presentation skills from mainstream curricular activities. On the other side, Group 1 students almost did not mention any of these academic skills, but the development of generic skills such as public speaking, email writing, office skills, or event organization skills, which are developed from extracurricular activity instead. Considering the commonly encouraged objective of improving research capacity of university and in the era of knowledge society, the underdevelopment of student skills and cognitive ability to work with and produce practical knowledge in Vietnam is really a problem. With reference to the differences in two educational contexts, firstly, in Western country system, knowledge are accessed through various channels, including lectures, tutorial session, office hour with academics, and the database at the university library. And each channel has served a very distinctive function in supporting student learning. For instance, students go to lecture to have the broad concept and the major ideas, and they go to tutor session for more clarification, office hour for private question, and they do their own self-study at library. However, in Vietnam, lecture seems to be the major space of teaching and learning, and the role of the other channels is either absent or unclear. These findings suggest a way that Vietnamese higher education can improve its system. Firstly, multiple learning sources or multiple learning channels should be developed to support students' self-study and research. They should be reorganized and cooperated effectively around the central tasks, such as writing assignments for students, and which each of them should have a distinctive function. And particularly, the support of reading in Vietnamese university students should be specially paid attention, considering its significant importance. So, in conclusion, the comparative analysis reveals the underdevelopment of the academic aspect of Vietnamese universities, particularly in equipping their student practical and in-depth knowledge, academic skill, and critical thinking ability. Furthermore, the research suggests how the teaching activities and learning resources could be restructured, and how reading activity should be better emphasized. So thank you so much for your listening.
Thank you very much for, again, a very important study. So let us hear if there's any question from audience. Có ai có câu hỏi cho bạn Kiều Trinh không ạ?
Mình có câu hỏi mình nói ở đây được không cô?
Được ạ, được ạ.
Dạ,
Xin
cảm
mời
ơn.
chị ạ.
Dạ, Miss Kiều Trinh, for me the finding is a real finding, the necessity of reading and the necessity of authentic tasks for a student in undergraduate training. But can you please share with me what major field of your participant? Because whether they are in technology or more in social science. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question. So about 2/3 of my participants are from social science major, and 1/3 of them are from natural science or technology major.
Yeah.
So in particular, I think.
Okay, does that answer Your question, Phương.
Dr. Chair, can I
Yes,
ask
please. Yes, please.
her one more question?
Yes. Yes, please.
The finding you report are similar for students of both different majors. What do you think about that? Because I assume that students from different social science and natural science, maybe they have very much different perspective in their academic profession.
Yeah, I agree with you. So according to my finding, critical thinking development is more emphasized in the students of social science major. However, even for students of natural science or technology engineering major, there are still a considerable part of their study that focus on research skill and critical thinking development. Although the ratio is a little bit different, varies between different major, but whatever their major is, in Western countries, universities, the development of critical thinking and academic skill are always, paid attention.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gyo-Ching. We have little time left, and we have 3 presentations left. I guess that is right. Phil, now could we move on to your presentation now, since you are already available?
Can I still?
Sorry?
Can I still share?
Yes, please. So we have to do this. We have to save all questions and answers until later. I mean, at the end of all 3 presentations. Okay. And if you can handle it in the chat box, you're also welcome to handle the questions in the chat box and QA yourself. So go ahead, Phương Nam.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience and your empathy, everyone. I'm sorry for the technology problem. May I present quickly a research from one of my younger colleagues in my university in the southwest of Mekong area. That's a new university in Mekong area in Vietnam. I and my colleague, we are interested in literature and the role of literature in language teaching. We do a small-scale research in 7 weeks. We use short story to help our student, non-major student, the student of computer science, to write narrative text. First, I review the research, genre, and the sketch of my treatment to you. Then I show you the finding on what the student might concern in their learning to write in English, and finding on patterns of development in writing of precision, indication for foreign language education. Research genre, we follow a research experimental and control condition. For this most study, we do a switching application. That means the first group, the experimental group, in later time of the study will be the control group. The control group will be the experimental in the experimental condition. This like that. This is the first point, the pre-test, and then the blue color, the control group, the red color, the experimental group. And after the first stage of the experiment, they switch the condition. So there are 2 stages of the experiment. May I show with you the key response of the student? They are students of computer science, but they said that they prefer to read short story to improve English because that helps them to memorize vocabulary and grammar, and they feel more confident with their writing. Short story also help them to be more confident in their writing task. A question coming from their interview respond whether we use Vietnamese origin translated in English or Anglophone story. Some prefer story from Anglophone culture because they said that the content is more excited and they can learn a lot of new vocabulary. The other one thinks that Vietnamese story help them to be more confident in understanding what happened in the story. I quickly move to the invitation, since I know it takes you a lot of time. The first indication is usually reading and writing are two independent skills, but in fact, reading and writing are considered like separate skills. They should be considered for a combination in teaching foreign language writing. And short story again help Vietnamese students to feel enjoy in their learning process. I finished my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phương Nam, for very quickly summarize your presentation of your study. I think it's also interesting and gives some implications for how we adapt English language teaching to the students. Okay. So thank you. I think we need to save questions, or if any of you have questions to Phương Nam, please write in the chat box or question and answer box. Please allow me to move on to the last presentation in the list, and then we'll try to go back to Anh Xuong later. So the presentation, the last one in the list here, không gian an toàn và trải nghiệm trong giáo dục đa chiều. By a number of authors. So authors, are you ready to present your study? Đỗ Hải Lan, Mai Thanh Hòa, Bùi Thị Thanh Hải, Nguyễn Thị Thanh Hòa, Vũ Thị Thanh Nhàn. Đỗ Hải Lan, okay, I can see you. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead when you're ready.
Hello everyone, my name is Lan. I'm from Tibet University. On behalf of my group of 5 members, I'm happy to present our research about safe spaces and experiences in multidimensional education. Students studying at Tibet University are mostly from ethnic minority group and Lao students. These students often have difficulty in learning due to language barrier and cultural differences. They face difficulty in understanding academic knowledge because Vietnamese is their second or third language. That makes them reluctant to participate in learning as they are not confident in using Vietnamese language. Many of these students are afraid to speak out their voice because they are afraid of being wrong. So they are very silent in the class. Chuyển chưa?
Yes, yes.
So our research aims to improve student confidence and their language skill by encouraging them to participate in different learning activities that designed by teacher. There's a role of facilitator in support. Multidimensional education is defined as a model that requires teachers to design multidimensional engagement opportunity to enable their students to achieve their learning goal. and participate in a holistic approach to education. One of these dimensions is school climate. Students need to be placed in a safe space to confidently make differences. I know many people have heard about learner-centered approach, but in our research, we use a learning center approach. It is an approach that knowledge is built up and formed based on combination student indigenous knowledge with different learning material under the guidance of teachers. To maximize the benefits of this approach, we design classroom as safe spaces and an important part of active and inclusive teaching. Our focus was on creating a safe and multidimensional learning space. We delivered 22 teaching biological lessons applying a new learning center approach in a safe space with a total of 48 students in year 2, 3, and 4 in 12 months. Among those students, there was 27 Lao students, 50 men and 12 female. In the beginning, we assess students' speaking and writing confidence in our classes by conducting a survey and essay writing. In the survey, students are asked to respond their willingness to participate in speaking activity with different options. For example, small or big group discussion or individual presentation. In the writing part, students are asked to write essay about environment pollution. Teacher assess the student work based on vocabulary, grammar, and structure. The next step, based on the survey results, we design our teaching innovation. Innovation. We involve the student in on phase the lesson development and to work through several steps from individual reflection through small group work to host a group discussion. As you on the slide, in each step there are the roles for the teacher. Teacher is not doing the teaching on giving answer to students, but the teacher works to make the student and their thinking the center focus of what occurs. This is basic of the findings that we are presenting today. The data in the figure shows that Lao students' writing and speaking skill in Vietnamese language has been improved significantly to nearly 17%. Based on this result, we argue that safe spaces being on learners' experience may take more time, but learners will have the opportunity to gain knowledge effectively, as well as to have the opportunity to review difference and to discover and use their strengths. This is the end of my presentation today. Thank you very much for your listening.
Okay, thank you, Do Hai Lan, for your very good presentation. I think you did it very well despite the delays and technical problem. I'm afraid we don't have time for questions, and I'm also aware that we don't have time according to the schedule left. But those of you who can stay on with us, please bear with me and stay to listen to. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have 2 more presentations. So let's try to listen to their presentations. The next one in my list is Sorry if. Okay, Chang Pham from Penn State University. Are you here, Chang Pham? Chang Pham is supposed to be in the other session, so we only have Anh Dill's presentation left. So I'm sorry, Anh Dill, the last chance. Okay, sorry, I still can't hear you. So I think we have to, yeah, we have to save the opportunity to interact with you to another occasion. Sorry about that. Thank you very much to all for your engaging and reflections, just even if you didn't have questions. And I hope that you will continue to reflect upon the issues today, and I also see very promising research and potential contributions from the Vietnamese context. I really encourage you to interact with senior researchers and also from those who are present today and also in your field to try to get your research published, and of course in the Vietnamese journals as well as in international academia as well. So good luck with all your research. Thank you for joining us.